When I was 15 years old, I got my first horse, Ada. Even in the beginning, Ada and I had our ups and our downs. But at the end of the day, she was always there for me. And then one day, everything changed. It started off like any other day at the barn. I started off by grooming her and making sure that she was all clean and that there were no cuts or anything on her. Once I was done brushing her off, I would start to pick her feet and make sure that there were no stones or issues that could cause her to be in pain while I was riding her. This is something that I do on a daily basis. Once she was all clean, I tacked her up with a saddle pad, a saddle, and then I put my girth on to make sure that the saddle wouldn't move around while we were riding. This is very important, just to make sure that she's as comfortable as possible while I'm riding her. Once we were all ready to go, I brought her into the ring and I got on to start our lesson. Once I was on, we started to walk around and get warmed up before we started focusing on what we needed to work on during our lesson that day. In our warm-up, we would walk, trot, and canter in order to stretch her out before we began jumping. During this time, Ada seemed very comfortable and we were ready to begin jumping. Kept the jumps low. This allowed her to stay relaxed and warm up before we started jumping bigger jumps. But when the jumps went up, I noticed that Ada was experiencing discomfort. She started spooking at people, she would get nervous by the littlest tasks, and I knew that something was up. I decided to say something to my trainer because I noticed that Ada was not acting like herself. But she simply told me to keep riding and push through it. Looking back on it, I wish that I had trusted my gut, because right after that, it happened. We were cantering up to a jump, and I knew that Ada was uncomfortable and that she might try something. She refused the jump, so my trainer told me to try and take her back to it. So I pulled back on the reins to get her to stop. But once I got her to stop, I pulled back yet again to back her up to the jump. And then she started to go up. Her front feet had come off of the ground, and she started to go straight up into the air. I held my breath and held on for as long as I could, until I realized that we were going down, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. My whole world came crashing to a halt as we landed side by side on the ground. And while we were laying there, I just stared into Ada's terrified eyes and realized that everything that I ever wanted had come crashing down with us. And then I snapped back to reality, staring into Ada's terrified eyes. I knew that we had to do something to fix this. We had way too many memories and such a strong bond created to just let that go from one little mishap. So I decided to just push through it instead of giving up. Because everything that I had worked towards was not lost. At the end of the day, I knew that I had Ada right by my side.